So last week I got asked a question. It was in the comments after the podcast, and it had to do with, RTO, return to office. Is RTO a war? Is the war over? What should I do with my smaller company? I'm trying to attract people to it. I'm up to about 10 employees. So I said, look, the first thing, if you've got 10 employees and you're trying to get together and you're trying to build a company, building your culture, building together seems to be pretty important. And if you're actually interviewing somebody that wants to, work from home or doesn't want to come in, then you're not talking to people that are going to be committed to come in to understand you, understand your vision. I'm thinking about it. If I was coming to work for you, I'd want to be right next to you. I want to know your vision, what you're doing. I want to be one of your main people. I want to get there. So the question that people were asking there, I'm like, unless you're in a market where you're just absolutely can't find anybody, then I would be incredibly reluctant on work from home for a startup. Now, the other question was about return to office. And one individual said they had about 20 employees, or 3 or 4 of them they allowed to work from home because they commuted a long way. And I asked, do they collaborate with other people? Well, yeah, they're part of teams. There's a lot of collaboration. Well, if they were somebody that could do something for you and they're working from way outside of town or something, I could see that. But if you actually need them to be collaborating, then I think you bring them back in. And I would like everybody to step back and dismiss from your mind for a second what you're seeing in all the media. Because the media likes to push this agenda, businesses are bad, bosses are bad, you're being used, and work from home should be your right. Well, there's a lot of downside to that. Productivity is not what people said it was. Do not send me links to isolated studies. I've looked at a bunch of them, and the productivity, you could say on an individual basis, well, I'm a lawyer and I could read more words per hour not being distracted. Okay, maybe so. But when you go broad base, it's not showing up. So return to office. We already know that JP Morgan's building a brand new corporate headquarters, Midtown Manhattan, and they're saying you will be visible and be present in that. It also talked about in real life that RTO and IRL come together because they want people to be mentored. And if you want career development, if you're attending a Zoom and you speak for 30 seconds when it was your turn, and you can't talk to anybody afterwards, shake their hand, and there's 7 VPs in there and you're a manager, why would you want to be on that meeting in Zoom? I want to be in there. And afterwards, I want to say to somebody, hey, I appreciate what you said. I learned something today. And then give them the opportunity to say, hey, that was a pretty smart question. That is called career development and mentorship. People say, oh, it's just kissing people's butts. No, it's not. If you honestly learned something from that VP, tell them you learned something from them. If you had something good to say, or say, as a follow-up, the meeting's over, but the point I made after I heard what you have to say, I think a follow-up may be this. What do you think? What would your advice be? Now that you're showing you're curious. This is career development. And that's what, JP Morgan's talking about. RTOIRL, And Disney last month, what did they tell employees? Be in the office 4 days a week. We're a creative organization. We want everybody to be there. Salesforce boss, Mark Benioff, caused an uproar when he said, hey, I think some people are less productive out of the office. How could you say that? Said the person wearing bunny slippers playing Frisbee with their dog in the backyard pretending to be working and saying my camera's not working and their phone's on mute. Well, they've got their iPods on and they're on a Zoom. Yes, it happened, and it happened a lot. And the meta boss, who's the meta boss? Zuck. He was saying, people were hired to work remotely. He found them to be less productive. Oh my gosh, we all jumped on that. So to the questions I had about RTO, you're hearing a lot of companies saying RTO, IRL is good for peer-to-peer productivity, good for individual career development, good for collaboration when it's the meeting after the meeting, good for reading people's body language. And by the way, it's not just because we built this big shiny office building, it is because there is an important set of things that can be learned, grown, and done in real life. And so I'd love to hear from you. I'd love you to leave a message or connect with me on Twitter, send me a DM, or send me a message on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear what you're doing with RTO. Horror stories, cautionary tales, or just reinforcement. I'd love to hear it. I look at everything across the board, and I come to my positions not because I want to do something at a company I'm with, but I really want to know what's going on and what the truth is of it. So I'd love to hear about that.